After bursting onto the gaming scene with 1992's Pinball Dreams, developer Digital Illusions struck gold with their World War II shooter Battlefield 1942. With the success of the title, it was no surprise when DICE released a slew of games under the Battlefield banner. Their publisher, Electronic Arts, recognized their talent and acquired them outright in 2006. But immediately after the acquisition, DICE released Battlefield 2142, a futuristic sci-fi war game that didn't connect with audiences as well as earlier titles. Realizing that modern day was a more popular setting with gamers and with the financial backing of EA, they set out to make another modern combat game. But the Battlefield that resulted would be a huge and controversial break from what gamers had come to expect. And for all that, it was only a warm-up for one of the biggest gambles in DICE's history. When DICE decided to switch from 2142 back to the present day, they knew they wanted to push the boundaries of the Battlefield franchise. For one thing, while Battlefield was a dominant player in the multiplayer shooter space, they had never had a strong campaign. For another, despite their rabid fanbase on the PC side, their only console game had been a disappointment. So for the next Battlefield game, DICE launched an all-out assault on these unconquered portions of the gaming world. In 2006, they announced that their next game would feature a full narrative single-player and would be console exclusive. The campaign revolved around a misfit unit in the US Army that goes AWOL in the quest for stolen gold. It was told in the vein of a fun B-movie, with over-the-top action and a dark sense of humor.
I hope those are our guns. It's a beautiful sound either way.
Isn't that more?
Typical! Drink your wine and sweets! It's about time we got some action!
Compared to anything else in the Battlefield library, it was by far the most in-depth and immersive campaign DICE had ever done. But the developer had one trick up their sleeve. For their new game, they'd be building a brand new engine from the ground up.
We've always been making our own engines, and sometimes we've kind of stepped back in questions of what we're doing, since it's costful, it's painful. I've been in on most of the Battlefield games where we build the engine and the game at the same time, and it's not really a recipe for success. Now I think as the company has matured, with the games we make, with the experience we built up through the years, it is an enormous asset and tool for us to be able to build games around. And in many of the things we do in the Battlefield games, we don't really see other engines doing out there.
Aside from allowing them to do whatever they wanted and make it look great, their new engine, named Frostbite, would showcase a mammoth change to Battlefield gameplay: fully destructible environments. Every game would now play out differently, and campers hiding in a building would no longer be safe. Destructible environments are relatively rare in gaming, and the feature would grow into one of the marketing buzzwords of the title. But by going console only, DICE faced a major backlash. Battlefield was a beloved title in the PC world, but those same PC gamers now felt betrayed. There was a sense in the community that PC consumers had built the Battlefield franchise, and now they were being abandoned. It was a lesson DICE wouldn't forget. But for console players, Battlefield Bad Company proved to be a fantastic title when it released in June 2008 after numerous delays. DICE had finally managed to port their addicting multiplayer experience to the TV screen, and its blend of vehicles, teamwork, and frantic combat ensnared the console world just as it had the PC. The addition of destructible environments was praised as far more than a marketing gimmick. It was a game-changing feature worth the price of admission alone. Sadly, DICE's much-touted campaign didn't meet with the same reaction. The goofy, humorous style didn't seem to fit with the seriousness of modern combat. While it was a good effort by the multiplayer developer, it just didn't stand up in the face of its more dramatic competition. However, DICE had one more game to release that year. First shown off at E3 2007, DICE would release Mirror's Edge in November 2008. From top to bottom, the game was a huge departure from what DICE, or indeed anybody else, had done before. The movements would be based on parkour, the color scheme would be stark and vibrant, the hero would barely use a gun. In a company and industry often accused of milking tired genres to death, EA used Mirror's Edge to highlight their originality and creativity.
We knew that, for every franchise there will be an end, and there's always so many things we want to try out in the company. So this felt like, yes, we are stepping outside of our comfort zone as a company. At the same time, we have something that we've been working with for a long time with prototypes. We do feel that we have something unique here. So a million things that the company and the team wanted to try out, and therefore it was kind of an extreme morale boost for the company and a lot of key learnings that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
The game took place in a totalitarian future where a resistance movement was fighting the government. The player would take the role of a runner, a group who used their free-running skills to navigate the environment and escape from their enemies. Specifically, the gamer would take on the role of Faith, a woman of Asian descent. Where nearly every single game has the player playing as a white male, once again, DICE was breaking from the norm. Faith only got a gun if she took one from a bad guy. Mirror's Edge was a shooter with almost no shooting. Because of that, EA knew this game would be a gamble. But in an uncharacteristically risky move, EA went all out with the title and released it in November. With the Christmas season right around the corner, November is usually reserved for the blockbuster mega hits of the year, usually sequels of established franchises in established genres. EA tried to pit Mirror's Edge against the odds, hopefully outselling the competition by its sheer inventiveness. It didn't work as well as they'd hoped. The game received only middling reviews. Critics faulted it for its linearity, its clunky combat mechanics, and its limited gameplay. Without strong buzz and against their competitors' biggest titles, Mirror's Edge wasn't able to break out. Contrary to popular belief, the game was not an outright flop. It sold over 1 million units by the end of the year. Still, compared to EA's normal holiday sales figures, that wasn't enough. Though the guys at DICE loved working on Mirror's Edge, it was obvious that they'd be returning to their flagship franchise. But when they did, gamers found that Battlefield would be taking a form they'd never expected. Tune in next time to see how Battlefield evolved into whole new markets.